So you mentioned that there are these think tanks with rosters of MAGA types ready to head into government and take office. So let's look at the Republican field for a minute. You have Trump, who probably would take advantage of these lists. So one of the things that I'd be concerned about is that essentially whoever even is able to elbow Trump aside might think, okay, the way I won is by being Trumpy, so I'm going to hire the Trump type crew. I don't suppose you have any sense as to who else is thinking in the same way.
Well, I think it's highly likely. In fact, one of the comments that someone gave me in the book was that it would be a nightmare slate of political appointees, regardless of whether it's the next Trump, because the people that are being lined up for these top jobs have to survive a purity test. And that purity test is, did they stand with the Republican Party when Donald Trump was at the head of it? So certainly don't expect to see any never Trump Republicans in the next Republican administration. But I'd be hard pressed to predict that we would see any former Bush Republicans or moderates go in, because a lot of those people don't pass that purity test that these think tanks, which will staff the next administration, want them to staff. What worries me about this, Andrew, in particular, is because folks would be coming into these departments and agencies carrying forward, again, some of these thwarted policies from Trump's first term. I mean, one of the ones that caught me really off guard while I was writing this book had to do with veterans. And I wanted to make sure that I talked to senior officials who had run agencies, almost every agency in the Trump administration. And when I went and talked to people at the Department of Veterans Affairs, I actually didn't expect to hear a whole lot. I hadn't interacted with the VA very much, but I wanted to check the box. And some of these people are on the record in my book, Trump's handpicked appointees that were running the Department of Veterans Affairs under him. And one of the things that I didn't know about that they wanted to do in the first term was, in their words, destroy the Department of Veterans Affairs. And you might ask why. Why would Trump want to destroy the agency that exists to serve veterans?
Yeah.
He found out that it had the second biggest budget in the federal government. The VA is a $250 billion a year organization. Trump wanted to take a wrecking ball to the organization to move that money to other political priorities. Again, you may say that can't possibly be true. Why would Trump want to do that? Well, we know from quotes from Trump's former chief of staff, John Kelly, and others, that he has a very negative view towards veterans because he himself tried to dodge service in the military during the Vietnam War. He called veterans that died on the battlefield during World War II and the Normandy invasion, quote, suckers and losers for not surviving those attacks. And now we see it manifested in his plans for the Department of Veterans Affairs, which he wanted to yank out that social safety net from under veterans. His former deputy secretary, again, Trump's own former deputy secretary of the department, said thousands, if not millions, of veterans would be thrown out on the streets if they had carried out his plans to destroy the VA. The only reason Trump was talked out of this was not because the officials told him veterans would die if he did this. And they did. There's documentation that officials at the VA told the White House veterans will die by the thousands if you move forward with these plans. The only reason he was talked out of it was because they said you might lose re-election because you'll lose the veterans community if you do this in a first term. And so Trump said, okay, and they put pause on these plans that will be implemented, by the way, if he wins a second term. They want to rip the VA to shreds to use that money elsewhere. Now, make no mistake, the Department of Veterans Affairs desperately needs reform. Okay, veterans health care has been an issue for a long time, but taking a wrecking ball to it and getting rid of it overnight would hurt millions of people who've served our country in uniform. That was one of the things I was told while writing this book that really disgusted me. I mean, absolutely stunning. And I put it in the book. And again, these Trump appointees who were on the receiving end of these orders are quoted by name.
Yeah, that is disgusting. I mean, we owe veterans a lot, and certainly need to deliver on our promises as opposed to trying to take a wrecking ball to the VA. It's terrible. Hey YouTube, glad you're enjoying the podcast. If you really like it, hit subscribe, and then YouTube will notify you every time we have a bang up new guest. Thank you.